Hey guys, so I want to talk about the most important school supply that any student can have, but especially college kids, whether you're in first grade or your senior year in college. I think that every student needs to own one of these, and that is a planner. And the great thing is during the school supply sales, the stores will sell academic ones, and that's what this one is, which basically focus during the school year. And so like when New Year's happens, you don't have to completely get a new planner, and so you can just stick with this for the entire school year, which is awesome. And it basically lasts for an entire year minus 1 month, but these start selling in July, so you're like set for that. But anyway, so these are really great. I especially like how this has a weekly and a monthly calendar, and I'll show you that. Hold on. So you get your full month view. Like this is July, which obviously already happened, but you get that entire view, so you can always like fill in, different dates that have tests or quizzes or whatever, and then you have the weekly to kind of help you organize like day-to-day homework and activities that you need to do, which is really helpful. And it took me basically all 4 years in high school to kind of figure out how to organize my planner accordingly to my schedule. So I'm going to show you guys what I did. So I'm basically just going to refer to July. So like let's say my teacher tells me that on Friday the 8th of July I have a history test or something. Then what I usually use are these awesome sticky notes. What I did, this is just a random yellow one. I've had that for years, but I actually bought a 4-pack of these pastels. So a blue, a green, a purple, and a pastel pink. And then I got a super sticky phrase sample to try, but I don't really use it because it has like this like advertising stuff all on the bottom, which is kind of aggravating, so I don't really use it as much. But I really use these pastel ones, these 4, and I assigned them each, like I color coded them. So the pink is tests, purple is quizzes, green is papers, and blue is like a project. So if my teacher was like, okay, you have a history test on Friday, July the 8th, what I do is I take a pen and I mark down the date. So I do July 8th in the upper right hand corner, and then I do history test. So I'd write that, and then I'd specify like what chapters or sections or lectures or whatever it'd be over. So for example, my teacher would say something like, okay, over chapters 6, 8, and 10 through 12. So I'd have that, and then what I would do is I'd rip that off and I'd stick it on the date, like so. So it'd just be hanging out in the date. And then to help me remember that, like to keep me on track, like usually a teacher will give you plenty of notice before a test, but sometimes, in case you forget, I would use these flags. Not these, I use these when I read, so I can specify a specific line that's important in a book or what line I stopped in reading. But I would use like any one of these to kind of just, remind myself in my planner that I have a test that day or a paper or whatever, and I would write on the colorful side, like if I use this purple, there's a glare, but I'd do like an exclamation point on it or something, or an arrow, kind of to just call my attention to it so I can, keep track of my progress in terms of studying. And then once I finished with the test, I could rip it off and just throw it away. So you still have room to write all of your homework on here. So it saves space instead of having to like section off a specific box for like your tests and your quizzes and things like that. And I know there are some days when it just seems like everything happens at once. So what you could do to save room, because you really only have room for like 1 or 2 full sticky notes. So sometimes what I would do is, if a date would get crazy, or a day would get crazy, I would use scissors and I'd cut these in half, not tear them like this. So I tear them in half so you really get the full like benefits. And so then I have my history, part of my history test, and I could put that on here. And then like this one I could say, okay, paper, English paper, I put that on there. So you have room for kind of like 2 reminders, and then once you're done you can just tear it off and then tear it off, and you still have room to fit all of your homework because you need the space. So definitely, to keep your planner organized in terms of like long-term things, I highly recommend sticky notes. They're great little reminders and they stick really well, but just in case if they were ever to come undone, you have that date written up in the corner to remind you. And you also have these tabs, which are stuck there, these little flaggy things, which are really useful. But when it comes to homework and organizing your planner, what I like to do is I will write down the subject and skip a line, because I kind of like that space and the cleanness of it. And then if I skip a line, and like let's say a teacher gave me a reading assignment and was like, okay, you read chapters 9 through 10, and I read chapter 9 but I didn't finish chapter 10, then what I can do is like kind of just remind myself in that extra space that I skipped and just say, don't forget to read chapter 10. So just having that extra space to add any like fill-ins or side notes or whatever is really helpful. And what I like to do is I will write the subjects in black or blue pen, doesn't really matter, I prefer black. And what I do is, if a teacher assigns a really important like reminder, maybe a journal is due, or a paper, or a test or whatever, just to kind of like heads me up on it, not only do I do the post-it note, but I also will highlight it in a specific color. And the great thing is you can just buy a cheap pack of 4-pack, a cheap pack of those 4 highlighters. And for myself, I never have more than 4 classes in a day, so you can just highlight it with a specific color. Like each class can have a specific color on a specific day, which actually really is helpful and can kind of just remind you, like when you get back to your dorm or you get back home and you're looking at your planner and you have highlighted like Spanish test next Thursday, then you can be like, okay, well I have an extra like hour, why don't I start making a study guide for it now? So it's kind of nice, and it's kind of like a heads up, hey, pay attention sort of thing. So yeah, but that's how I've organized my planner. Of course, I haven't started school, so nothing is filled out, but when it gets to be further along in the school year, I'll definitely show you guys how it's specifically organized. But until then, thank you guys for watching.